At 12 years old, I was raped by a family member. Those of you out there who may have experienced this trauma, let me tell you firsthand, it was not and is not your fault. You have to use the tool just like you use the lock on your doors and windows. It's a distraction, disruptor. It's intelligent, but it's fake. It's artificial. It's not real intelligence. It's not a person's brain. It's been programmed to answer questions.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us in today's episode of the Obehi podcast. I remain your host, Obehi Ewanfo. And today I'm going to be talking to somebody who is also an expert in the field in storytelling. Like what I'll be telling you guys here, the power of storytelling is unparalleled. Of course, you see in the business world, there are a lot of people on the internet, particularly in the internet space. There is more than 5.5 billion people on the internet. So a lot of people that basically just replicating what they see other people doing, even though they haven't really studied the methodology behind why some people are doing what they are doing. So we therefore are telling you that your story is the most powerful instrument that you can leverage, because when you use your story, you don't need to compete with anybody, because there are no two people that are exactly the same. So your story therefore become your key differentiator. That is what we preach here. So I have the honor of talking with somebody who is also in this same field, talking about story. So, dear Barbara, tell the people who you are. We'll take it from there.
Thank you so much, first of all, for having me on your show. This is an incredible opportunity and honor. I am Dr. Barbara H. Smith, and when you say, who are you? I am a relentlessly ascending oracle. What I am is when I enter a room, the atmosphere changes. I'm not waiting for time to catch up with me. My next level is activated by and through me. And so when you say, what am I? Is it a title? Yes, a mother. Yes, a wife. Yes, a sister. Yes, a daughter. All those are titles, but who I really am a child of the Most High God, who has sent me here at this time and space to encourage, uplift, empower, and engage with love with others. That's who I am.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Barbara. I really appreciate that. I love the way you put in a lot of elements in that, which is, of course, really who we are. We are a combination of a lot of information. We are not just singular entity, as it were, because otherwise we will really be nothing. But for the fact that we are connected to a lot of things, a parent, a daughter, a wife, that really make you grounded. All right. You see, Barbara, I am really interested in learning more about you before you became who you are today. Now, take us back to when you were a young adolescent. You are looking around you. What do you see?
When I was young, I was loved by both parents in my household. My mother, who I have since learned had the same kind of background as my father. Both of them were abandoned as children, differently though. My mother was abandoned by her mom leaving this plane of earth when she was 8 years old. My
Sorry about
father,
that.
yes, I never knew my maternal grandmother. My father was physically abandoned by his own mother. And so that I'm now studying psychology and mental health gives me a different perspective. So your question was, what did I see? What I saw was a loving household, two parents who loved their children. My father was mainly the provider, and my mother was mainly the homemaker, and four other siblings. Now, I came first And so by design, I was a leader. I was expected to teach my younger siblings. And so I looked around at 3 years old and discovered there were more people coming because for 3 years, I was the only child. And in that, I was able to learn to play by myself and do things by myself. I didn't know it was a setup for being independent, for being an independent thinker. But what I've since learned is looking around that childhood that I did not only have my parents, I had others, the village in the neighborhood that looked after me. I had a loving godmother and godfather, and not like godparents that we have today in America who just buy their godchildren gifts. My godparents were God-fearing, and they taught me about the love of God. And so I had another layer of love that I had surrounding me. And so I had a very joyful childhood, not knowing what I wanted to be. It took me quite a few years to understand what I wanted to be. But what I didn't then know, what I now know, is that I was gifted at teaching. And so that's what I do to this day. I teach. My director of operations for BHS and Associates, the company that I'm CEO, she says to me, you will take a teaching opportunity, no matter who it is, no matter where you are, no matter who you meet, no matter when it is. You teach. That's what you do. So answer your question. I looked around myself as a young person and thought, this is just a joyful time in life because I didn't have any worries or concerns. I wasn't lacking anything, not love, not food, not shelter, not clothing, not anything. And so I lived a good life as a child.
That's so lovely. You see, the more we begin to peel out the layer of what we are, because sometimes we are just objects wrapped up in several layers of experiences, and they are what make us who we are, and they become like a kind of a shield, as it were, protecting us or actually forming us into who we are today.
Yeah.
I'm thinking you are a mature adult now. And sometimes I think you need to think back to, because sometimes when you look at little children that are growing up around you, you sort of give them advice. When I was like you, because you were like them. They have never been like you. You are the only one that have been like them, and now you are no longer like them. So do you sometimes make comparison to how it was for you and how it is today for children that are growing up? Because I'm saying that because you are a parent. And I'm saying that also because when people look at people like you, they are looking for wisdom. They are looking for, how did you do it so that I can also do it? That is where I'm asking the question.
That's a great question. So success leaves clues. And I've lived long enough now that I'm considered one with wisdom. And let me just break off for a second and explain to you what wisdom is. Wisdom is lived experience. Wisdom is going through trial by fire and coming out on the other side and being able to tell the story to those who have not yet been there or who are there now. And so the thing I try to avoid doing is saying to other people, younger or otherwise, when I was your age, when I was, you're in your school, when I was this way or when I was that way, I didn't do this. I didn't have that. I walked a mile to school, uphill both ways in the snow. Those kinds of things I don't say. What I do impart and what I do help others, whether they're the same age as I or whether they're younger than I, is if I have experienced what they're experiencing, I will share with them my story. And then it's up to that individual, younger or older, to take the pieces that might apply to them and to use them possibly for their greater good. But if they decide that after hearing my story that they feel they cannot still not do it, then that's still on them. Because Henry Ford said this: whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you are correct. Because what's in your mind is totally what's doable. So as a man or woman thinketh, so is he or she. So if you can contrive it in your mind, if you can think a thing, you can be a thing. And I'm definitely a testimony to that.
Thank you so much for that. And now you're using the word storytelling. And of course, that is what we'll be doing now. We'll be learning about you. And that storytelling, I think now it also will be relevant because of who you are or what you do. You're a teacher, but of course, we are coming also to what you do now as a leadership expert. But let's look at how do we build a people? Because as a teacher, you are teaching somebody to become a better version of he or herself. So I'm trying to understand what role storytelling might play there as an instrument of helping that individual or maybe passing down your knowledge to them. What role will storytelling play there?
Wow, that's really a deep question. What role does storytelling play in the individual? We are our stories. And before there were written words on paper, stories were passed down from generation to generation. And so my story, though you may see the glam and the glimmer, you may see the makeup and you may see the jewels and gems and diadems, that wasn't always my story. Even though I had a relatively pleasant first years, about the age of 12, well, first of all, let me tell you how I'm going to tell you the story. I'm going to tell you, then I'm going to tell you what I told you, right? With the storytelling formula that I use, I learned from Dr. Reuben West. You take the word story, S-T-O-R-Y. The S is I'm going to set the stage for you. The T in story, I'm going to take you on a ride. The O are the obstacles I've overcome. The R is that I've rehearsed this story so many times, and its story is my story. So that the Y is it's your story. So it doesn't matter if you take a shortcut in the story or whether you circumvent some of the details in the story, because it's your story. This is what I teach people. Use the story formula, and it's your story. It doesn't matter how you tell it, as long as you tell it with passion and conviction and truth. So back to the story of how I became the speaker that I am. I will give you the story of the 12-year-old me. At 12 years old, I was raped by a family member.
Sorry about that.
No need to be sorry, because I have now been able to tell this story for those who have been through what I've been through. I was raped at 12 years old, and I began to stutter. It was a response to the trauma. But my parents didn't recognize that I was stuttering. And the abuser threatened me, as abusers will do, that if I told anyone, they would not believe me. And because he was older, I believed him. For 20 years, I kept that secret. And stuttering wasn't the only thing that was harmful for me. I had no confidence. My confidence that I had before the traumatic incident was shattered. I felt dirty. I felt embarrassed. I felt unworthy of love. I went through all kinds of emotional upheaval, ups and downs and curves. I became promiscuous in my teen years because of this. I felt that was what I was. I took on the trauma as a mantle. This is who I am. This is a person who sleeps with other men. So those of you out there who may have experienced this trauma, let me tell you firsthand, it was not and is not your fault. Once I came to that resolution, once I came to that resolve, I could go forward. But it was 30 years, 25 to 30 years before I came to that point. And I couldn't even tell this story without crying. And I cried because when I finally divulged this story to my mother, it broke her heart that she didn't protect me because this happened in our own house. But fast forward, I told this story to a church group, my first time as a public speaker. And when I finished telling the story, tears in my eyes, unable to tell it without sobbing and crying, the story was over, the event was over, and there were ladies who came up to congratulate me, 15 ladies in the room, and 5 of them, one being my sister, whispered in my ear as they hugged me to tell me how great I did, that I had just told their story. It was at that moment that I realized that I had to tell this story, however painful it was. And each time I told the story, I healed just a little bit more until I got to the place where I tell this story without being ashamed, without feeling hurt, without feeling embarrassed or abandoned. And now, part of when I speak, depending on the audience, I tell this story, especially in women's empowerment events, because so many women have experienced what I have experienced, and they are ashamed and embarrassed and hiding. But I am that voice in the wilderness, like John, that's coming to tell you that God still loves you. And unless and until you experienced what you experienced, you cannot tell someone else what it feels like. And that's the story that I tell, one of many.
Thank you so much for that. That is really
It
deep.
and when the story touches, you can see it. When the story touches, you can feel it. And I saw that in you
Yeah.
when I told the story.
Thank you so much for that sharing again. I really want to thank you for that. There is a part I would like you to expand on a bit, which is how you managed to eventually tell this story after 25, 30 years. And again, I'm asking this question for the sake of the person, that woman, young woman, or maybe older woman who have passed through the experience. I want to know the way to break out of it because they have see this monster now in front and they continue to think that this monster is going to always grow bigger. And of course, it continues to grow bigger. And what I tend to say here is that at a point, we're going to look at the monster in the face and say, I am bigger than you. From that moment on, you are going to demystify it, and the monster is going to suddenly become nothing because now you have overcome it. So I want you to tell them the how. How did you manage to do that? Did you undergo a course? Was it a therapy? Did you just read a book? How did you manage to do it after 25, 30 years?
That's also an amazing question. How did I do it? I didn't. What happened was I started to study the Word of God more. Why? Because I could not understand why a loving God would allow this to happen to me. And I asked the question, God, why me? Why did I have to experience this? Why did I have to go through this? I cried out. I screamed out. Why did I have to go through this? And one day, a still small voice said, why not you? I chose you because you could handle it. And so I was taken aback, like, did I really hear what I just heard? And so I wanted to know more about this being, this spirit called God. And what I understand now is nothing is wasted. The most horrific things that we endure is to make us better, not bitter. It's to give God glory for this walk that we walk. And it's never about us. That was the most revealing thing. It was never about me. It was about those people who I need to serve. Those people, women and men, who have been where I've been, whose shoes I've taken the path of. And they need to hear a voice that says God still loves you. That's what happened. And as I told the story, more and more people stood up and raised their hand and said, me too. And once you admit that you too have experienced whatever it is, whether it's homelessness, whether it's rape, whether it's incest, whether it's alcoholism, whether it's whatever it is, that's the first step to healing.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. And I believe the people that are listening, they get that point that no matter what have happened to you, you need to look for a way to overcome it. Perhaps you are not exactly like Dr. Barbara. You might not take exactly the step that she takes, but no matter how long it is, you are going to look at the monster in the face so that it will dissolve. Of course, I understand now that it takes time, it takes courage, because if it was easy, Dr. Barbara will overcome it the next day. It's not easy, but it's a medicine that we must take because we need to overcome it and we can use it to also help other people. Please go.
And you said something very important. Overcoming it does not mean that I don't have moments. See, what a lot of people mistake as total confidence, I have moments where I go back to that fear of not being good enough, the imposter syndrome, all of those things. But however you need to get help, whether that's therapy, whether that's talking to an association, whatever it is, knowing that you need help is the first step to getting help.
That's powerful. All right, now let's talk a little bit about what you do today. A leadership transformation and AI integration strategist. That is a mouthful. Break that down for us.
Well, I have 25 years of information technology experience. I like to call myself a geek with a personality. Because if you know any geeks, they usually don't have a whole lot of personable skills. And so I was working for the Department of Defense, United States Joint Forces Command. And as its name implies, it was a bunch of different armed forces, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, merchant seamen, all under one roof to see how they could work together. And in that role of engineer, I found myself always between the people who understood plain English and the people who understood only computer English. And I always found myself in the middle as a liaison, teaching how to do this or that to people who needed to understand how their computers were working. And so I was also leading a team and also helping those who didn't understand the computer terms, how to use their computers more efficiently. And as that role evolved, I became the program manager for modeling and simulation and a bunch of different other roles I held. And one day I said, I wasn't being invited to the meetings, even though I had top secret clearance. I had a master's degree at the time. I had 10 years of experience at the time, but I wasn't being asked to the meetings because I was the only one of two that looked like me, because information technology at that time, and still is a white male dominated field. And so my friend Deborah and I were the only two African American female engineers with top secret clearances. And I wouldn't get invited to these meetings. And so one day I decided, reading a book in my cubicle, that it was called Escape from Cubicle Nation, that I would create my own table. And so I started a little company called A Learning Experience to help elderly people understand how to use computers back in the 2016-ish. And from there, I continued to lead teams, my own teams, and I was invited to teach and train at Capital One, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Howmet, Canon, all different types of organizations. And that's how I continue to do teaching and team building and all the things that I currently do. But I never stopped growing with the technology. And so today, AI is hot, and I am right in the thick of it. I call myself now an AI strategist and prompt engineer. And I help people understand how to integrate AI tools into their daily lives to go faster and more efficiently, as opposed to working harder. And there are a lot of people who are still afraid of these tools, just like they were afraid of the internet when the internet came on the scene in the 1990s. And so I am still a business owner, entrepreneur, teaching and training. I also have contracts with state and local governments that I help teach and train them in AI tools and transformation. And so that's how I came to be what I came to do now.
All right. All right. It's like you dip your hand into my heart to know what I was thinking about the AI thing. And I don't know how much of it we'll be able to take, but we can come back again, like I said, because we are here for this. There is this fear around AI. Some people are speculating that AI is going to become like human being, become conscious, even though I'm trying to understand what they even mean by consciousness. That AI is going to take our job and things like that. And these are said by people both within the in of the AI, people that are inside the AI tech, and those that are just maybe speculating, and those that are applying it. But I am not an expert in AI, but as a ignorant human being, I don't believe that to be true. But you're an expert. Help us. Should we be afraid of AI?
So I love this question. I get it a lot. Thanks for asking about whether AI is going to take our jobs and you should be afraid of AI. Well, here's the analogy, and I love analogies, by the way. I asked a question when somebody says AI is going to take our jobs and you should be afraid of AI and you shouldn't use it. Okay, so let me ask you a question. Do you lock your house?
Of course.
Why?
But so that intruders will not come in.
Right. But if an intruder really wanted to come in, could they still come in if your house is locked?
Of course. They
Right.
can break the door and enter.
Right. So AI is a tool. You have to use the tool just like you use the lock on your doors and windows. It's a distraction, disruptor, preventative measure, but you still have to have guardrails with AI. You still have to be careful what you're putting in and check everything that it puts out. On the question of will it take our jobs, AI itself is not taking people's jobs, but people who can use AI better than you are taking your jobs. Now, AI will replace the jobs that are repetitive and redundant and can be done by a machine. That is a fact. But anything that requires emotional intelligence, that requires logical thinking combined with emotional intelligence, is not going to take your job. So what your responsibility is, person out there that's afraid of AI, is to learn as much as you can about how it actually works. They are a conglomerate of machines that is comparing information, and in an instant can search the entire globe of information. We have never been in a time of better information, a better access to information. And so if you are doing research or you need ideas, this is pretty astounding technology to embrace and understand. And I am AI immersed. I have been using these tools for over a year, when some people are just dipping their toe in. And baby, let me tell you, if you don't get on this AI train, you will be left behind.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Now I'm a little relieved that I'm on the side of that. I don't need to be afraid. Oh,
No,
okay. Even though I'm not an expert in AI, you use a word that is very relevant to me, which is the fact that AI is a tool.
right.
For the fact that it's a tool, meaning that it's an instrument in my hands. Even my
Yes,
hands are tools, you
that's
see,
right.
which I can use them to maneuver and manipulate things. So with me, if the AI is a tool, AI cannot be me. It will never be me.
That's right.
Okay, there is something I said one time, a couple of days ago, because I've had this conversation before. In fact, I've even organized a webinar, brought in different neuroscientists to talk about this question. I think maybe I'm overhyping it, that in about maybe say 500 years from now or 1,000 years from now, we will look back at the AI we're even afraid of today, and people will wonder, but that obsolete thing, how could it work for you?
Yeah, yeah. Obsolete, totally obsolete. Yeah,
All right. So, which is to say, we shouldn't be afraid. But
right.
having said that, where is the question even coming from? Why are we afraid? Where is the fear itself coming from?
That's an easy question to answer. We're always afraid of the unknown.
All right. So we nullify that. I will move on.
Always afraid of the unknown. We are always afraid of what we don't know.
Yeah.
But you can't know if you're afraid. You've got to step in and learn and see. I am a voracious learner. It's not like I don't already have a PhD. I'm working on my second one because I just love to learn. And my learning is never for me. My learning is so that I can teach more, so that I can be more valuable in the marketplace, and so that I can help more people.
That's lovely. That is lovely. And I just want to tell the people that are listening, I'm sure you are listening to Dr. Barbara, that the AI you are afraid of, you don't have any reason to. You shouldn't be scared. Because you need to understand that several thousands of years ago, at least 6,000 years ago, more than that even, they say tool that we are having today, the basis had already been set up. Otherwise, we couldn't even build pyramid. You see, today people are still contemplating how did they manage to do that. You see, that have to be a precise technology that measure exactly the weight, the volume. It is so perfect that today, with the technology that we have, we are still calculating how did they manage to do that. That is tools. So the same way that we are shouting today. Okay, now imagine somebody is inside an airplane, because airplane is what we use today to move very fast. But to somebody who is very ignorant, you might think this is the higher we can go. No, we are barely starting. We are barely starting. Many years to come, we will divide different means of transportation, which is not going to
Right.
rely on train, rely on aeroplane. So we don't need to limit human capability. We can do it, we can do powerful things. So don't be afraid. Don't be scared. All right.
You know, you reminded me of a couple of things real quick. One of those things is that my mother is 86 years old. And when she was a child, airplanes weren't invented. And so, can you imagine? She tells a story about how she had a sixth grade teacher who used to pretend to fly around the room and they thought he was crazy. That he told them, even at that early age, that at some point there would be these machines, massive machines that you would get on and be able to fly like a bird from one place to the other. Let me bring this closer to home. You are in Italy and I am in the United States. What thought of us being able to see each other would have been unheard of 25 years ago?
Only 25 years ago.
Yeah, not even 25. That unheard of for you and I to see each other, talk to each other in clear, plain sight. It wasn't heard of. And so the technology is like, and now today it's like, this is nothing. What do you mean? This is nothing. This is huge. I have friends that I see and talk to in Nigeria. I have friends that I see and talk to in Kenya. And now I have a new friend in Italy. This is unheard of. And so we have to understand that technology is driving, but as a tool. We human beings are creating things that were unheard of in years past. And going forward, to your point, will not be heard of in years to come. We are thinking this technology is just too much. But so was the airplane.
I like you. I like you. You know, people need to see it from that perspective. That one time you were on top of the horse. People, when you were on top of the horse, people who didn't see that happen. Okay, horse have been for very many thousands of years. But now imagine that when you were on top of the horse, you would tell somebody one day there will be a machine like the horse. You will be walking on the road. People will say, "Are you crazy? It cannot happen."
And have horsepower. Right.
I like that. You see, people need to understand this. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Barbara is telling you, all you need to do, learn the trick, learn the tool, learn how to use it. Because the
And look at
tool
history.
is not coming to take your job, but people who know how to use it will take your job.
And look at history. Look at all of the inventions that we didn't know we had. Like, hey, back in the 1950s, where there were no washing machines, maybe, or 40s. Washing machine, you took your clothes and you put them in the water in a tub and you rubbed them together with some soap and you washed them. That's all we knew. And today, you throw them in a machine and let the machine do the work. You got to look at history. What did you in your life? Now, if you're 12 years old, you don't have a whole lot of history to look at. But I'm 67 years old. I can look back and see there was no cell phone. This didn't exist. This didn't exist. And so history and technology is moving forward. And guess what? It's moving faster than ever before. I'm not saying you need to be well versed on the latest and greatest everything that's coming out, but you got to keep up. Find somebody. If you're an older person like me or older, find somebody in your family that knows this stuff. Babies are coming out with these in their hands these days.
Thank you so much for that. Okay, Dr. Barbara, you're a teacher.
Yes.
Now, let's speak to somebody who does not yet understand. Because, when you don't have knowledge, then you sort of use some other thing to fill it up. Okay, yeah, because of that. When you have knowledge, you know how to apply it. Now,
yes.
I wanted to speak to somebody who doesn't yet understand what it even means by AI. Maybe this person is even in business. What do you want to talk? What do you want to say to this individual?
Artificial intelligence has been around for decades, and I'll prove it to you. If you're listening to me today, have you ever used a global positioning system, GPS. Have you ever used the words, hey Google, hey Siri, hey Alexa? Google just turned on uh, because I said it out loud. That's artificial intelligence. Have you ever made a phone call and you get on the other line? Press 1, press 2 if, press 3 if, press 4 if. And then you press the number and it says, tell me what your problem is, and I can direct you. That's artificial intelligence. It's intelligent, but it's fake. It's artificial. It's not real intelligence. It's not a person's brain. It's been programmed to answer questions. Somebody sat down, listen to me well. Somebody sat down and said, what are all the possible questions that someone can ask? Let's put this in a database. And so when the person asks this question, you can direct them here or you can direct them there. What happens when a question happens that they don't know? It's now taken into the database and added to the body of knowledge that is already there. It's the same thing that AI does. When we use ChatGPT, for example, you ask ChatGPT a question and it searches the entire world. Do you know how long it would take you to search the entire globe? And if you are using Google, for example, to search anything, pay attention to the response, because it's saying to you, when you read the response, that they're searching AI. They're searching artificial intelligence. Google is now doing that. It has its own brand called Gemini, right? And so when you are afraid of this tool, let me give you a comparison. Artificial intelligence. Right now, when you go to Google to search something, you type in the little search bar, whatever it is you're looking for, right? And it gives, and press enter or send, and it gives you a listing of links from which you decide to click, usually the first one. And it takes you somewhere. And it may or may not be what you want to look at. So you go back and you click the second one, and it takes you somewhere else. And it may or may not be the one you want. Third link you click, it takes you somewhere, and it may or may not be the one or place you want to be. By this time, usually third time, people move on to another set of responses or prompts or questions for Google. The difference with AI, I use ChatGPT. That's my friend. I even gave her a name. Her name is Charlene. Me and Charlene go way back, like a year ago. So she understands me. You type in ChatGPT the same question that you asked in Google, and now ChatGPT goes out to Google and searches the entire globe of information and brings you back responses, several of them. But the part I like the best, is at the end of all of that information it gives you back, it asks you, is this what you want? Or would you like this? And now you can say, oh, I never thought of that. Why don't you check that for me? You don't get that with Google. So it's Google on steroids. No need to be afraid.
I like that. I like that. So basically, it's saying that we need to be a little bit more creative because now we have more resources in our hands. Of course, there are some people I know who want all the information to be given to them at the tip of their finger. But yes, those quick jobs that are hanging on the tree, sometimes they will be gone. But it means now you need to do what you are actually supposed to do because this thing on this ball is supposed to be useful. Need to use it to imagine things, create things. So if you are using it means you have tools. You need to be able because there are a lot of problems in this world that we need to solve. It means we
Yeah.
have tools to help us solve it now. How do we cure some of these deadly ailments that we have in the world. We have tools to do that, so let's do it. How do we eradicate hunger in this world? We have
Right.
tools to help us do that. So
That's right.
if we can no longer stay and you use the example of washing machine. Because at that time, we need to spend a lot of hours just pressing clothes so that they become clean. Then we start drying them. Since we can now just simply put it in the machine and just click a button, it's dry. What that means that we now have enough time, less
Right.
edit time or more creative things. So we shouldn't be scared that, oh, I will no longer be staying there, I'll be washing anymore. Okay, use your time well.
You just hit on something that's really critical. The one commodity that we don't get back. You can make more money, you can make more products, you cannot make more time. And so for me, to be able to write a curriculum that used to take me sometimes 2 to 3 weeks or 2 to 3 months for a program that I'm designing or developing, 2 to 3 weeks, 2 to 3 months to tweak it, to test it, to do all the things, now takes me less than 2 hours. So what do I do with the rest of that time? I have time now to work on other projects. I have time now to collaborate with other collaborators. I have time now to go to other conventions or conferences to learn more things to help more people.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. All right, Dr. Barbara, people that have listened to you to this point, they want to learn more about you. They want to come to meet you where you are because you have a space. Tell them how to reach you.
You can reach me at barbarahsmith.com. That is our website, and I am available for consultation. There is a place where you can contact me on the website, or you can check me out on LinkedIn. You'll see me there at Dr. Barbara H. Smith. And I'm also on all social platforms, but if you want to reach out to me at barbarahsmith.com.
All right, Dr. Barbara, it has been a pleasure talking with you here. I really thank you so much for the time and the valuable lesson that you give to the people that are listening to us. And I believe that they're going to take action on that because they are supposed to take action. So we really appreciate you. We appreciate your time that you spend here. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.